Trent Alexander-Arnold didn't get it wrong. He walked into it with full awareness, and now he's living the outcome. Moving to Real Madrid was supposed to elevate him, a fresh chapter, a club built on dominance and prestige. Instead, it's become a showcase of how quickly expectation can outpace reality. The belief that he would walk into that 11 and redefine the role has been met with something far more blunt: hierarchy, veteran preference, and selective trust from the manager. From the moment the deal was pushed through early, ahead of contract expiry, Madrid did view the move as strategically important. Paying €10 million to expedite his arrival ahead of contract expiry proves that. They were willing to spend to secure him early for their Club World Cup campaign, signaling intent, but their treatment suggests value without structural prioritization. He was considered an advantage they didn't want delayed, not a system cornerstone. They brought him in early, expecting contribution, yet still without planning tactical reconfiguration around him. Essential to the tournament approach, yes, essential to long-term structural identity, not yet delivered. That's the contradiction he's navigating. Valued enough to invest in, but not granted the framework to thrive. He arrived as a headline, not as a guaranteed starter. Now, with Dani Carvajal currently sidelined following knee surgery and expected to miss the remainder of 2025, the conversation shifts. Even without being available, his influence still holds weight internally. That's telling. It shows how deeply status embedded through longevity can overshadow immediate availability. Despite Trent being physically fit and ready, the hierarchy still leans toward established reality. This isn't competition based on who is ready, it's preference based on who already represents continuity. In Madrid, absence doesn't always weaken position, it reinforces how the club values history over integration speed. This isn't about form, it's about standing. Carvajal fits the existing structure, Trent represents a shift, and for managers in transition, shifts require time they don't get. The murmurs around Madrid are that his adaptation hasn't matched internal expectations, that he struggled to find the rhythm required in high-control matches, and that tactical reshaping around him isn't happening. That's not a failure in effort, that's an incompatibility in priority. Reports now claim that club figures have already begun assessing exit routes by next summer if the situation doesn't reverse. Manchester City have been monitoring developments due to Pep's long-standing interest in intelligent fullbacks who operate centrally. Financially, it's viable for them. For Madrid, it's an easy pivot. Small investment in, clean asset flip out. Liverpool's stance is complicated. Emotionally, there are mixed reactions from supporters. Logic suggests they moved forward. Strategically, that door isn't fully closed. Only one factor would open it again: the player pushing for correction, not return. Right now, Trent stands at an uncomfortable junction. He chose to step away from what shaped him in pursuit of what he believed would elevate him. Instead, he stepped into a system unwilling to adapt for him unless he dominated immediately. Madrid don't wait. They don't build around uncertainty. They reinforce what already wins. And for the first time in his senior career, Trent isn't the solution. He's the optional variable. This isn't speculation. It's fallout already in motion. Less than a year from signing, his time there is now being framed as transitional, not legacy-defining. And when future debates arise about why the move didn't live up to its promise, the truth will be blunt. He wasn't misjudged, he was miscast. Trent's arrival at the Bernabeu was symbolic before it was tactical. The club embraced the PR value, celebrated the idea of another high-profile English signing, and presented him as part of the next era. But internally, the expectations were far stricter. They believed he'd adjust to their tempo instantly, acclimatize to the positional rigor, and impact games with the same freedom he enjoyed at Liverpool. They expected immediate precision, not development, not acclimation, proof. Real Madrid operate in absolutes. If a player fits seamlessly into the existing structure, they're backed without hesitation. If they require adaptation, they're only as valuable as the time their adaptation demands. Trent needed integration. Madrid expected imposition. From his first weeks in training, conversations internally suggested hesitation. He was valued but not trusted, technically sharp but too expensive for that role without positional assurance. Coaches observed his strengths, distribution, vision, range, but questioned whether they justified restructuring defensive shape to accommodate him. Madrid favor fullbacks who maintain tempo and defensive stability above creative utility. Trent arrived with elite passing, but in matches, those moments didn't convert to consistent territorial control. That's where hesitation began. Carvajal returning changed everything. Suddenly, the position wasn't experimental, it was reaffirmed. Trent's potential was recognized, but not at the cost of removing someone whose leadership and discipline anchor the defensive line. And while Trent's tactical versatility was intended to provide flexibility, it instead created indecision. He wasn't considered first choice in either fullback slot, nor central midfield, nor wingback. In elite squads, uncertainty is worse than inefficiency. By October, rumors suggested that coaching staff viewed him more as a depth option than system driver. And that's when conversations shifted from integration timelines to exit feasibility, not as a failure, but as a transaction. Manchester City's interest complicates it. Pep Guardiola has followed Trent's evolution for years, recognizing his skill set aligns with inverted roles he uses regularly. But for Madrid, that makes the player more valuable as a transfer chip than an internal project. They invested little to acquire him, and flipping him to a Premier League rival for profit would be a strategic win. For Trent, it's an uncomfortable truth. The move that was meant to confirm ambition might get undone before he has the chance to redefine it. Liverpool remain a wildcard. The bond with the club and city is undeniable, but returning would mean admission, publicly accepting that the step-up didn't translate. It requires personal acceptance rather than structural correction. For a player accustomed to progression without compromise, that's harder than sitting on the bench. That's the nuance here. He didn't fail to reach the level wasn't arranged for him to reach, unless he reshaped his contributions to match their non-negotiables. At Liverpool, the system adjusted to Trent. At Madrid, the player adjusts to the system. And if you don't, someone else already has. His skill set wasn't overlooked, it was categorized, and categorization is often the difference between being central and being rotational. Madrid approaches squad building like succession planning. They identify long-term anchors first, then surround them with adaptable talent. In their current project, the defensive anchors are already chosen. Midfield construction is controlled by rhythm players like Tchouaméni and Valverde. Wide progression is managed through Vinicius and Rodrigo, and Bellingham, someone who arrived as a positionally fluid attacker, succeeded because he asserted himself in roles Madrid already prioritize. For Trent, his historical best role does not perfectly match any of the current vacancies. The difference between him and someone like Jude is this: Bellingham entered expecting to adjust and made dominance through adaptability. Trent entered expecting to control through execution, which works in a team built around him, not one that expects him to assimilate. Real Madrid standards are defined by position relevance rather than player reputation. They don't grant time, they demand fit. They don't mold the system for external stars, they incorporate stars who extend the system. And for the first time in his senior career, Trent landed somewhere he wasn't granted structural protection. That's the harsh side of elite management. Past success does not guarantee present trust, and players accustomed to certain freedoms often struggle to exert influence when those freedoms are stripped. That's the outcome he's embracing now. If the pattern continues, Madrid will likely explore moves before the next pre-season. Manchester City represent the most logical proposition for stylistic compatibility. Guardiola replaces patterns, not traditions. For him, Trent's hybrid qualities are tools, not risks, and given Pep's preference for fullbacks who transition central, it's a plausible platform. But there's rivalry weight, cultural weight, legacy conflict. Liverpool offer emotional resolution, but tactical regression. The game has moved on. The dressing room is no longer anchored by the version of Liverpool that rose in Europe under Klopp. Returning would require a clear new role, and he is no longer the system itself. That's the realization emerging. His future requires reinvention, not restoration. Trent received clarity, not failure. In Madrid, he learned how elite institutes operate when you're not entering as the spine. If he chooses to evolve through that, the move may still define him positively. If he chooses to retreat from it, it may remain an uncomfortable footnote. The calculated gamble he took did not collapse, it simply revealed something he had never needed to confront before. that personal belief is not enough when structure refuses to bend. Right now, he's still one of the most technically advanced fullbacks of his generation, still capable of dictating how modern systems develop, but that will now depend on where he plays next, not what he's done before. Madrid won't shape around him. They'll extract what they can from him before moving forward. That's how they operate. And that's why this move, while not career-ending, stands as a critical pivot point. He wasn't misjudged, he was miscast. The distinction matters. Misjudged would imply he failed to deliver. Miscast meant he entered an arena that never intended to showcase what he offers, and that's the final reality he must carry forward. Sometimes the next level isn't where you go, it's how you adapt when it doesn't mirror where you came from. Trent Alexander-Arnold now has that choice. Not whether he's good enough, everyone knows he is. Whether he's willing to evolve where being good enough was never the question.